It's awesome, funny, random, doesn't make any sense, but it's good.
Hello, everyone. Like any good prediction show, we start by looking at our seer stone in the hat. Welcome back to the Priestly Dispatches channel for our biannual General Conference prediction show. And as if by magic, I have with me the one, the only, Nemo the Mormon.
Hey.
And Peter Bleakley. We wouldn't be without him. He's got the seer stone.
No.
I've got the hat.
I've got nothing.
I'm
I've
clearing
got a horse.
He's got a horse outside.
No, dude. You're wearing the Urim and Thummim on your ears.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
Got you.
But the hat,
They're
everyone,
held together by a bow.
if you're in the UK and not going to Sunstone yet, now is the time. This hat is a prop and a clue as to the Saturday night entertainment that I will be performing, kind of, with Sister PD, where she just stands there, side-eyes me constantly, and looks disapprovingly in my direction.
So a Saturday night in PD's life?
Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, everyone, welcome back. It's been a few weeks. I've been away. I went on holiday, and then when I got back, I just couldn't get back in the groove. But these guys tonight are going to get me in the groove because we are on a time crunch.
Yeah.
Because it is now almost October. It is 2022, and Russell M. Nelson is not yet dead.
True.
Which is quite surprising, to be fair.
Oh my gosh, Peter, have you got a surprise for us as well? What have you got in front of you?
No, I've just lifted my laptop up because it looks like I'm
right.
down at the
I
floor.
thought you had like
more personable.
I thought you had a board with like a big phallic symbol on or something like that. Okay, well, one of the best things about this time of year that we found pretty much from last conference and that we hope goes on for conferences to come are the pro-Mormon Hollywood-style trailers that people put out. And they probably think, we put our stuff out, so why don't they? We've got two of them, and I think they've done pretty well this year, if I'm honest. If I was still with it, then I think, yeah, it might get me going.
All right.
So let's take a look at the first one. You guys haven't seen it yet, so this is a first for everyone. Let's take a look.
Now is the time we can bless others.
Thou shalt go to the house of prayer.
Fear not, and believe only.
We are the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
We are God's children.
We are laying the foundation of a great work.
We too can embrace the Savior's charge.
Jesus specializes in the seemingly impossible.
When the storms in life come,
God so loved us that he sent his only begotten Son.
Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding.
When we truly are in awe,
makes all of this possible.
You're stronger than you think.
My dear brothers and sisters, welcome to General Conference.
Yes, you see what it did there?
Oh man. I want I was just this summer. You know what I mean?
Coming to a theatre near you.
Yeah. Oh, that's wild.
The only thing they were missing was a bit of reverb there on Rusty. Brothers and sisters, welcome to General Conference.
But the problem is that makes the conference centre sound about as empty as it is.
It does, and it is empty behind me. I have my own red velvet chair that I stole from the conference centre.
Well, I think it'll be our first full capacity conference, I think.
No. There's still loads of construction.
Oh, okay. So they're limiting the number of people going across Temple Square, are they? Going through that area, there, essentially.
Yeah. So it's still all knackered.
All right.
So no, it won't be. I don't think it'll be full capacity, but
let's find out.
Anyway, so that was the first trailer that I thought.
Man,
thoughts. They got in every accent that they have in LDS leadership.
Mm-hmm.
They touched every continent. And like obviously the church didn't make that.
hard.
That's just someone, a random member somewhere. You know, props to you for giving it time. But yeah, I thought there was a good selection there of ethnicities. Two ladies. But it's slim pickings when it comes to the sisters anyway, unfortunately.
I think it gives us an insight into just how powerful music can be in a trailer or in media in general, because that music gave it hype. That music gets you excited, makes things amazing to happen. Imagine a non-member seeing that. Oh, I'm gonna watch, and just how dull it will be for them.
Mate,
it promises so much.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Okay.
So that was the toned down conference trailer. This is like, I mean, you can see the guy's logo at the top here. He's like a little Deadpool guy. And yeah, he both of these channels did them for the last one. I hope they continue doing them in the future. But this one's the good one that would really get me G'd up.
Okay.
In modern revelation, we have the promise that if we are prepared, we need not fear.
There is another scourge sweeping the globe, attacks on your and my religious freedom.
There has been a war between light and darkness, between good and evil since before the world was created. The battle still rages, and the casualties seem to be increasing.
Decisions determine destiny.
I have witnessed the gospel of Jesus Christ in action and the radiant light of the gospel in the countenances of courageous and faithful sisters.
For Satan has declared war on motherhood. He knows that those who rock the cradle can rock his earthly empire.
The priesthood in the boy is just as powerful as the priesthood in the man.
Do the spiritual work to find out for yourselves. Do it now. Time is running out.
The signs of the second coming are all around us and seem to be increasing in frequency and intensity.
Welcome to General Conference.
Yes, that guy has to work in Hollywood. That is all I'm saying.
Goodness.
Holy crap.
My goodness.
There was a lot there.
Oh dear.
Does anyone else feel like picking up their musket and charging down the Wasatch Front right now?
I'm ready to shoot some gay people. Oh my gosh,
Peter.
That's you demonetized?
Yes.
Oh man.
Wait a second. Peter gets suspended for 30 seconds for saying such a thing.
Yeah, can we actually talk about that for a moment? That was incredible. And I love how, you know, the bit where he's like, the signs of the second coming are becoming more frequent, etc., etc. That was like the oldest clip in the trailer. That's from like the 80s.
I know.
It's an old clip of Oaks.
And I thought as well, becoming more and more like frequent. They showed, what did they show? Wars. So they showed a war memorial from like, I don't know if it was Vietnam or World War II.
Yeah.
So that was a long time ago. They showed lava, which is generally billions of years old and is always here.
Side of the second coming.
But no, we cannot laugh at him.
No. That is that was amazing, job, right? Yeah, for what he was trying to do, spot on.
Yeah,
that was genius. I love the panning shots around the statue of Moroni.
Is he going out and getting drone shots? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, like, I'm gonna watch that again tonight.
That's incredible. I might start all my halftime shows with that.
Yes. It's 1 minute and 50 seconds of absolute gold.
Oh my goodness, man.
I'll send you the link.
That's incredible. I mean, some of the priesthood in the boy is as powerful as the priesthood in the man. That means a lot.
Either the guy has an encyclopedic knowledge of conferences past, or my apologies, might be a girl, might be a sister. His logo is a guy, but or he's really done a lot of work in going back through conferences and finding, what's been going on.
And let's be honest, Jeffrey R. Holland doing the "Welcome to General Conference." That was so good.
Yes, yeah. It was almost like a battle cry.
Almost.
And Holland's the man for it. But the one thing I wanted to pull out of that after we've praised him is the whole modern day Moses thing. And I remember it
love it.
Yeah, even from back when I was a missionary, the mission presidents would tell us, invite people to conference and tell them, there's going to be a modern day Moses there. And then your investigators come and it finishes and they're like, when does Moses show up?
I love the visual, like the visual is like
Moses with
a staff, big beard, all this sort of stuff. And then Russell Nelson in a white suit, clean shaven, like
Rusty in the suit.
It's just it's not the same image.
Well,
doesn't hold the same majesty.
No. Well, I don't know. For some people, some people like that sort of thing.
No, it was a nice picture of Russell Nelson, but it's not majestic.
Well, I thought it would be fun to compare Moses and Russell Nelson because that's what they're asking us to do.
Okay.
So I made a quick list. And I mean, Moses, dude, 5 books of Moses. I don't know if Rusty's going for that as well. But
and those books are held sacred by at least 2 major world religions.
At least 2, and I think Islam use them as well.
Yeah, because the divergence of Islam is around Abraham, I think.
But things like Moses, right? I didn't put it on here, but I was thinking the serpent and the rod, the whole turning the rod into a serpent, turning it back into a rod thing, and then when people were unwell because they were bitten by the serpents, telling them to go and look at the rod, and that whole story.
Better doctor than Russell M. Nelson.
Well, yeah. But the whole serpent and the rod is still a logo now on many ambulances around the world, even here in the UK. It is in the middle of a lot of local, I looked at one the other day near me, and it's still got the serpent and the rod just in the middle of their crest, and you see it all over the world.
So putting your apologist hat on, it's a win. That's a score.
Yeah. But is the new church logo going to be on ambulances in 5,000 years' time?
True.
You know what I mean? So Moses, 10 Commandments. Russell M. Nelson, 2-hour church. I think Moses wins that one. Parting of the Red Sea. Russell M. Nelson killed Mormon, or the word Mormon, and has been rebranding everything like it's going out of fashion. Plagues of Egypt. Now, Moses was really busy with that one. Bringing them in, taking them out, bringing them in, taking them out. And just like those, Moses weren't U-turns.
No. He
doubled
down every time.
Yeah. Whereas Russell banned the children of LGBTQ couples from being baptized, and then did a U-turn, and then he cancelled the sisters session and the priestess session, and he did a U-turn. So I don't know if he's trying to be like Moses like that, but he seems to be on like U-turn alley. Serpent and the Rod, new handbook. Water from a rock. Now I think if Rusty gets up during conferences time and strikes a rock with his rod and water comes out, I would be amazed. But he's changed things in the temple ceremony.
But getting meaningful revelation out of Russell Nelson is like trying to get blood out of a stone.
Definitely. The healing waters of Mara. And I've put here that he ended the Boy Scouts of America relationship and he's reshaping the youth program that we'll come to in a little while. And then lots of fire. There's lots of fire going on with Moses. He's shooting it out of his proverbial. And Russell just ended pageants. So I don't subscribe to the whole Moses, modern day Moses thing.
No.
It's bottom trumps, isn't it? It's not top trumps. It's like the race to the bottom.
The race to the bottom.
Oh, gosh.
Interestingly enough, in my research for this show, I did see people saying that there are more changes to the temple ceremony coming up, which seems
Really?
strange. Yeah, like
Wow.
I don't know what, and it just said if you want
What's
to know
left
what they
to
are,
get rid of?
go to the temple. So yeah. Cool.
Oh, someone here in the chat saying that the Queen's death followed by Truss's so-called mini budget are definitely signs that chaos is increasing and that the second coming is on its way. But I wonder whether Nate Jokes, he gave a talk about the Constitution last time. I wonder whether I might add a prediction to my list that he's going to try and use the strength of the mighty dollar versus the pound as justification that I don't know, that America's great, because that seems to be what he likes telling us.
Yeah, and the whole, like, we've already discussed they won't go into Russia, even though like, we're not political here, we're not going one way or the other. No, we are. We don't like Russia.
We are. Russia's wrong.
We don't like what they've been doing. But today's rant from Putin, if anyone in the United States, I know it's the afternoon there and you've not yet looked at the news, but basically Putin blamed everything on Anglo-Saxons, which were a very small kind of English subsect of people. And there are a lot of other people. Yeah, but Anglo-Saxons were very much immigrants to England, and then mixed with Celts, Picts, Vikings, and other immigrations over the last 1,000 years. But he was really, really on the Anglo-Saxon thing, which I thought was a bit weird and a bit psycho. But yeah, moving on from Putin. Thank you to H. Benzula. I hope I got that right, for your donation. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Everyone, if you can hit the like button as well, that really helps.
Likes are free.
Yes, likes are free. But the pound has tanked.
That pound has tanked.
Chat revenue is appreciated as well.
No, but great. The pound has tanked, which means that $99 is actually going to come out more like, 80 quid. So that's not bad.
Yeah.
So the pound tanking is good for us, basically, is what we're saying.
He's donating dollars.
Cheers, Liz.
If you come in the other way, Liz Truss. Anyway, too many Americans here to be going on about that. They won't get what we're talking about. Yep. We're talking about conference. Let's get on with it. So, yeah, he's not Moses. He's not Moses at all. But I want to look back briefly at the last show that we did in April, at some of the predictions that we made, to see if any of those came true, because we're all about accountability when we're holding people to, I guess, account. I guess whilst we're on the topic, there was a lot of talk around the Russia thing, because it had just started this current phase had just started in February, and I predicted that Nelson would sanction Russia by taking away the announced Moscow temple.
No.
And what did he do? They didn't even mention it. And the prediction this time is that they won't mention it again, even with everything that's going on.
I saw a lot of people saying that the way that Russia's going to get a temple is essentially that they will successfully invade Ukraine, and then Kyiv temple will become Russian.
Wow.
Hope that doesn't happen.
No, because that's a long way.
That's a long way.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So another thing, Peter, you predicted that there'd be temple announcements in countries that don't have enough members to sustain a temple, a Scotland temple.
Ooh.
You got that wrong.
I was sort of right. No, oi, hang on. We got a Birmingham.
Yeah, hang on. That's great, isn't it? Imagine, Daddy, what can we have for Christmas? I want a Scotland. Oh, what did you get for Christmas? I got a Birmingham.
From me.
It's like that meme. Oh, can we have McDonald's? We have McDonald's at home. McDonald's at home. Right? It's that.
Oh.
Well, I still think we could get a Scotland temple this time.
Okay.
So we'll come to temples in a little while.
Yep. And I've got a slogan. My slogan is big temples in tiny places. Love it. I'm gonna get a t-shirt.
Yes, please do.
Big temples in tiny places.
That will kick off Mormon Civil War merch.
Yeah.
Do it. Start a Teespring
You might
store and
get
start selling
ashtrays.
them. Big temples,
Big temples
in
in
tiny
tiny
places.
Ashtrays and
places.
beer mats.
Well,
That's excellent.
oh dear. Okay, so Peter, you also predicted that Wendy would speak.
Yes, that still hasn't happened.
No, I think this time, I think she's been warming up to it. You know, going around the world, speaking about her husband, and someone in the social media on Reddit did predict that Wendy would come out and not like that Wendy would appear and talk about the Emperor's New Clothes again.
I would love for there to be a reference to the Emperor's New Clothes. It's my favorite dire misunderstanding that they make. It's excellent. The irony levels are so high.
Yeah. Nemo, you had a couple of weird ones.
Have they had wives speak? Did Sister Hinckley do a talk in one conference? Maybe in the women's session. I seem to remember her giving a talk.
Holland had his
so there
son
may be
speak once,
some precedent for that.
Yeah. Well, it's Count Kolob. The leadership session is a general session now.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe she will speak there.
Okay.
So
tune in and find out.
So Alyssa never seen wives without a call-in speak. So that would be interesting.
Okay.
So
if anyone's going to do it, it's Wendy. She's the real power behind the throne. And
yeah. Nemo. The whole LuLaRoe thing was going on with the leggings. There wasn't any mention of the multi-level marketing scam. You predicted "Oh My Father" might be a hymn, and I don't think it was.
No.
Brad Wilcox to get released.
Oh, we can still hope.
As if they wussed out on that though.
Yeah.
No, he can't yet. I've got 2 more episodes to go. Then he can be released.
It would almost be seen as a sign of accountability.
These people need to survive.
Peter, you said exactly the same words that you just said now on the last broadcast 6 months ago, except for it wasn't 2 episodes, it was 3 episodes.
Well, I did get 1 more out in that time. Thank you. It took 2 months for the last one. They're nearly there. I've got 2, then they can release him. He's got to survive this one. They don't have anyone else. They're going to have to keep him.
Peter Auld, women's
Yes,
conference.
there we go. Thank
Sister
you.
Hinckley.
Thank you.
Okay.
So Wendy might get a chance to speak.
Yeah. I mentioned
this is the wisdom I'm bringing.
the social media challenge. We didn't get a social media challenge last time, did we?
No, because there's nothing they want people to kind of avoid knowing about to do with their children this time.
Oh, controversial.
I mean, totally, they wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Did we get? I spoke about warnings on the media. I think that's standard now, isn't it?
It is. Yeah,
isn't
standard
every time.
Isn't warnings about media the new masturbation?
Almost.
And pornography. Like I think
it's the new pornography. I think more than masturbation.
Yeah, early 2000s. It was all porn.
Like now we know you've got smartphones and you can watch it wherever you want now, but don't.
Yeah.
Well, they'd rather they were watching porn than watching anti-Mormon.
They would. I think they actually would rather be watching porn than reading Mark Renendez's article. Mike Renendez.
I couldn't believe it. I'm a big TikTok fan at the moment, and I saw someone on the BYU campus, and they were asking students, "Would you rather watch a porno? That sounds so 1970s. Would you rather watch a porn movie or die a horrible, grisly death?" The amount of people that said they wanted to die was unreal. You can repent from that. One of these things is easy to solve. The other, you can't. But guys who are clearly returned missionaries were just like, I'd die. I'd just die.
I'd die.
You know. So
Yeah.
interesting.
Ask
But
them
yeah,
again in 6 months.
I think the media is going to come up again.
Yeah, I really like what Count Kodob's saying here. He says someone will say so-called journalists in a not-so-veiled reference to the AP articles.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because they have already set the precedent for calling into question their journalistic integrity, which, that's what I do. Go after a Pulitzer Prize winner over his journalistic integrity.
Yeah, one that you know is putting together information to make a real, like, hour-and-a-half Hollywood-style hit piece on you.
Yeah. Mr.
Really
Menendez,
upsetting.
I love you so much.
Yeah. Okay, and the
Beautiful
hashtag,
man.
Nemo, you came up with stand in holy places, but I think they stuck with hear him.
Ah, that's annoying.
Yeah.
You were too
Because
interesting.
yours was so much better.
Well, no, but the problem is, right, is that hear him basically means hear me, because as far as Russ M. Nelson's concerned, as we've seen in the marketing materials leading up to this general conference, it's like, listen to the words of Christ. And then in the subtext is like, by listening to Jesus. It's the same. It's the same as going like, come and listen to Elvis Presley. I'm going to put a record on of Elvis Presley in my front room. It's not the same thing.
No. Elliot Woodland here, who comes up again later in the show. Elliot, this is a good one.
Yeah.
Will they bring the new lazy learner in? Ob Susan tried secular scoffers in his last talk, but it didn't catch on. Will they bring in a new lazy learner? Because what have we had recently? We've had less Wi-Fi, more Nephi.
We've had Babylon's Band.
Ooh.
Babylon's Band.
Yeah, that was one a couple of
That was
conferences
good.
ago.
That was York, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So see what they come up with. Some and yeah. But Matthew Allen won. As I was looking back, Matthew Allen came up with the whole Heavenly Mother, and they actually did it. They actually had a talk. They didn't have much, but they did have a talk with about 30 seconds on Heavenly Mother, and then told us all to shut up about it.
Sus guys, wish I knew more.
Yeah.
You're the guy that could ask.
Yeah.
If only we could find someone who could ask for more information about Heavenly Mother.
Can someone put a freedom of information request in?
Right, FOI to Elohim.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh,
then
dear.
his lawyer representatives would have to
Kurt
respond.
McConkie would write you a letter saying, we don't keep that information. Sorry.
Oh, don't. Let's not start down that road. That will come. But yeah, Matthew Allen, congratulations. Even let's see what we've got.
Well done, Matt.
No, it took that long to find it. That it's not funny anymore. So onto this time, it is now the fall. It is not Easter. The Queen hath died, and we want to get onto some predictions. What is really obvious? What do we get every time? What is the bread and butter of conference that we get every time? In the chat, if you know one that just happens every time. I'm not talking about they're gonna say a prayer or anything.
Uchtdorf looks fire, as always.
Yes.
Uchtdorf will look splendiferous.
Yes. Uchtdorf to look amazing. A really weird floral arrangement. Last time it was all out of Jurassic Park.
I want them to bring the fannies back. They had like actual giant painted.
Oh, when they did,
during
yeah,
COVID.
they had the yeah.
Yes.
Pray and
They
obey.
were
Yeah.
amazing, like very, very anatomically correct.
The vulvas. Oh, Count Kolob. At least 3 people will say supernal.
That's a really niche prediction, and I kind of love it.
Yeah.
Let's
keep an eye on that one.
Yeah.
So one of mine
Supernal's gone off a bit. It's time to come back. Yeah. Even.
Yeah. One of mine would be
even the supernal.
Oaks' homophobic rant.
Yeah.
Standard.
Well,
JC
that's on my list.
Beware of coffee drinking Gentiles. Now, this is an interesting one because on social media, there is a rumor and a movement for an adjustment to the word of wisdom. So, and I wouldn't put anything past this fella for changing stuff and saying it doesn't matter. Listening to the most recent LDS discussions on word of wisdom, it clearly didn't matter to Joseph. So,
no. This didn't. I think that would be excellent, and I cannot wait to do that compilation clip of the woman saying 1 cup of coffee, and then Russell Nelson going, "The word of wisdom is, whatever. It's given by way of advice. I know, what is it? By way of but not by way of commandment."
Maybe he'll say,
Yes.
You can have your coffee as long as you don't have it within the first, like, maybe 2 minutes of it brewing.
Then it's not
because
hot.
then it's not hot, it's warm.
So we'll start with cold brew.
No. Rusty will never say that. Pharisees. Oh, hang on. Pharisees just love their, anything they can police that's tangible. They'll double down. So I'm going to go the other way and predict they'll bring back Coca-Cola being bad.
Oh,
Really?
I think they'll get worse.
They're gonna tank the Coca-Cola stock price. Let me
Tank
short
the
that
Coke.
stock right now.
Yeah.
Iring will
Get
cry.
rid of the last 5 young people.
Yes.
Iring will cry. Yeah.
This at a moment that doesn't make sense. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
But in the last video, in the last one of these, we came up with a very weird kind of thing for Iring crying. It was called the cry ring. And it's a bit like a sex toy. So next time you see Iring crying, think of the cry ring. And try and say that in your sleep. So have another look. Covenant Path, standard Marco, Covenant Path. Someone will say
exact obedience.
Unequivocally. Probably Jeffrey R. Holland.
I'm making note of some of these. These are good. I like these.
I think Jeffrey R. Holland
Neither
needs
Twiller.
to steer clear of words with too many syllables in them, because it gets the whole face moving several times. I have to steer clear of too many syllables just because I can't say them. But yeah.
Unequivocally.
Ooh, Captain K. Captain K, I don't know about this one, but he says at least one will hold a book in their hand saying this is the very book.
I think they know better
too
than
many
that.
times. Yeah.
I think they absolutely know better, unless they're holding up the new hymn book.
That is a good call. The new hymn book coming out.
Where is the new hymn book?
Well, I think the
problem
is
years
now
ago.
they were. So the problem is they were going to put the British national anthem in at the end, right? And then they realized it is now actually "God Save the King," so they have to reprint them to put "God Save the Queen" in, just so they can be fashionably out of date as they ought to be.
Yeah.
70 years, the
British
entirety of her
problems.
reign, it never was changed.
You know what? I think I saw the first time I heard about that, I was in Canada, in Calgary, and we were in the mission president's office because I had 2 brothers served there and we went over to collect them. And the mission president, this was his general knowledge party trick. He said, "Do you know the only hymn in the hymn book that ever changes?" I was like, "No." And he's like, opens right to the back. And there was "God Save the Queen" glued in there. And he's like, "That'll change." And I don't know if it was glued in there because either they forgot about it or they'd got the American ones and realized they were part of the Commonwealth and needed to put it in there. But yeah, they'll have to glue another one in now. Maybe they want to go to the church's, whoever looks after the First Presidency's vault and see how good they are at gluing things back in.
Sick burn.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking through these. Coke is bad. Lots of comments. Yeah, the protest. Sorry,
that is, wow. I haven't heard about that. I just got a tingle of excitement. I mean, if there's ever going to be a protest by people outraged about covering up child abuse, now is the moment, surely.
No, you know what though? Outside the conference center during general conference is the strangest mix of really angry people and really kind of high and mighty people trying to shout at one another but not shout at one another. It's a weird feeling because you've got all the protesters on the Temple Square side looking, maybe you won't this time because they can't get there, but usually the protesters are there trying to pick people off as they go. But then, because they all have to have their own busking spots and stuff with the city, so then you have different wards who are assigned to go and sing. So they'll bring all the young men down from the Manti or up, I don't know, from the Ogden 976 ward, and they'll stand there and they'll sing hymns in the cold for tickets. but they're trying to drown out the protesters. And it's just a really weird kind of juxtaposition of people
Mormons, man.
really hating on it.
Mormons just need to start getting comfortable with people not agreeing with them.
Yeah.
It would make their life so much easier. But it's like, okay, these people cannot agree with this. We'll just ignore them. It's fine. We'll just go on with our day. It's fine.
Yeah. I think just wind it in. Sorry. Just take
I like that. Ray Runcie too. Rely on the Holy Ghost rather than Holy Google.
Yes, that's a good one.
All
Down
right.
under. Look out for that one, Nemo. Write that one down.
Yes. Rely on the Holy Ghost rather than Holy Google. That's excellent.
Okay.
Was it said by a Aussie leader? Was
it from Down Under? He just said.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to our specific predictions then, and I want to start with one that specifically got my goat and that Marco just mentioned as well. Marco, thank you. And that is tithing. That this time in these really tough economic times all over the world, especially the UK, with the cost of living crisis, they will double down on tithing and remind us all that the windows of heaven cannot be opened unto you unless you pay a full tithe.
And it will be typical tone deaf America centric drivel. It's this idea that, oh well, our economy is struggling, but our centralized bank is increasing interest rates, and we're doing all right, and the dollar is doing very well. So it's, as far as they're concerned, as far as Enzyme Peak is concerned, it's business as usual. So
no, absolutely.
Therefore, it must be business as usual for everyone else. And why aren't you then paying a tithing?
Yeah. Well, a couple of weeks ago, Elder Cook visited these sacred islands, and he did loads of leadership stuff. I think it was like for all the stake presidents and bishops to go and see him at Hyde Park Chapel. But on the Sunday, so that was the Saturday, and then we did the show because of all the special state conferences that were around that. Go and take a look on Nemo's channel for that. Link in the description. But on that Sunday evening, there was a priesthood leadership meeting in the Huddersfield stake, which is near where I live on Kolob. But thank you to a member of the Huddersfield stake, who I won't mention, John, who forwarded that email to me, and just let me see how ridiculous it is. So we've seen apostles going out into the world, Russell M. Nelson to Africa, and telling everyone that the problems of Africa won't be solved until Africa pays a full tithe. Go into South America and saying the same thing. But now it's hit the UK. So the Huddersfield stake presidency, and I think they're only echoing what the brethren have been saying. I don't know if they were in a leadership meeting and this was said to them, but they wrote quite a long email about it. But they said, in April 2022 General Conference, President Russell M. Nelson outlined 5 things that could help us gain and maintain positive spiritual momentum. One of the 5 was to seek and expect miracles. Do we remember that? President Nelson reminded us of numerous scriptural examples that show the Lord's willingness to intervene in our lives in uncertain times. Can we see where they're going? Including the parting of the Red Sea. Glad we've already mentioned that tonight. Nephi's retrieval of the brass plates of Laban and the restoration of the gospel. So all big things, all big miracles. President Nelson also reminded us that the Lord will bless you with miracles if you believe in him, doubting nothing. However, he gently reminded us that we need to do spiritual work to seek miracles. Okay, so what do you think this spiritual work is going to be?
I mean, I just want to know what's miraculous about Nephi murdering a drunk man.
Yeah.
Like,
no, the miraculous thing was that he didn't get blood on him.
Oh yes, of course, because he was able to. Yeah, cool. Sorry, my bad. Carry on.
Yeah. So then they come up with how to seek the miracle. So before this, they've gone on about the cost of living crisis and the fact that we're all screwed here in the UK. And they say, as a stake presidency, we invite every member to do the spiritual work to seek miracles. There is a great opportunity for every member to unite in faith to unlock the windows of heaven. Sorry, they're just word salad.
I actually hate this.
One of the things every individual and family member can do to seek miracles is to pay a full tithe. And then it goes on about we invite all men, women, youth, and children to serve more diligently in the home, ward, and temple, and pay a full tithe. And then faith precedes the miracle. So I wonder if at General Conference we will get a same thing to the world. Like,
yeah,
it has gone downhill, and what's the first thing you can do to get it going back uphill? Pay a full tithe. I love it how that's the thing they go to first.
It's just, well, I mean, we've discussed before. It's so ridiculous that if you've been involved in bishoprics and welfare and relief society presidencies, you know the rigmarole that the poor are put through to access welfare, and it's taught in conference as if it's some kind of essential test that everyone will go through. But most of the people in the church, and particularly in America, are never ever going to once experience a situation in their life where they have to choose between paying tithing or feeding their children. So they fetishize the poor, and it's usually the poor abroad, somewhere with brown people in it, in the exotic mission field, where they just tell stories about people very different to themselves who had the faith to sort of go without their last cup of whatever and not feed the children, and then a miracle happens. And then when they were gaslighting the Ensign Peak, the presiding bishopric, was saying, now we can, pay your tithe. They just had to say it. They were literally had just been exposed as hoarding hundreds of millions of dollars. But in this interview, the presiding bishopric had to still say, if you're starving and your children have no food, pay tithing first. Still, like, there is no threshold at which that is not essential. And then they said, and the church will feed your children. But that's absolute nonsense, because the Handbook of Instructions tells the bishops to tell those people first to go to their relatives to get food. Pay your tithing, and then get your relatives to cover your payment of tithing to us, whether or not they're Mormons. And if your family won't help you, then we'll give you some stingy support in most cases. I mean, it's just egregious, and they are going to keep doing this instead of admitting that no one needs to pay tithing anymore, because 100 years ago, Joseph F. Smith promised that when we have enough in the storehouse to live off the interest, which the church does now, God's plan for the economy of the church was to stop asking for any donations of any kind.
Go sign my petition.
It's just absolutely maddening. It's maddening. Little recap there of how egregious that is. But that's absolutely going to happen, isn't it?
Peter, if you had to predict which of the brethren was going to give the tithing talk, who you're going for?
Oh, well, we've already got, I don't know if they'll put destitute in the title. Like, there is one where a 70 gave a talk in sacrament, tithing a commandment even for the destitute.
Wow.
So I've got a small hope that will be in the title. And it will, of course, be Gary E. Stevenson, the billionaire.
Why him?
Or he might, because he's a billionaire. They'll put the most inappropriate person to talk about the thing, because they're totally unself-aware.
Nothing says give me all your money, poor
prediction.
people, like a billionaire.
Gary Stevenson, the billionaire who hasn't left his nets, who is still managing his iFit company, which is having troubles apparently. It will be the person who tells the destitute.
It's having troubles
tithing.
because the Lord told him to leave his net, and he's not doing it. So until he leaves it, his company will still remain in trouble.
Well, brethren, this brings me to another of the points. Nemo, one of your points was the fallibility of prophets, that these brethren aren't perfect. How do you feel about that?
I think this is very carefully managed. This whole they say enough so that when someone like me says, "Hang on, they're doing all this shady nonsense," and Peter points it out as well, we all do. When that comes up, they say, "Oh well, you know, prophets never said they're perfect. Look at this time when he said prophets are fallible." So they'll feed us enough that then bishops can try and gaslight you when it's very clear that they treat themselves as infallible. They've listed this conference as "come and listen to the words of God," and then subtitled it with "that means come and listen to us speak." So you can't say that you are speaking the words of God and then go, but we might say some stuff that's wrong. We might lie to you. That's fine.
Yeah.
Sorry,
well,
rant over.
Thinking of words and infallible prophets,
Mhm.
because everyone loves Rusty. We know that, and we know that in the past there has been a big loving for President Nelson. And last conference, Nemo, awesome, put this together, this little competition between Joseph Smith, Russell and Nelson, and Jesus Christ for mentions in conference. Nemo, did the Jesus Christ ones, did that include prayers or finishing like "in the name of Jesus Christ, amen"?
So what this is very clearly is this is quotes. So this isn't just mentions, this is quotes from those people.
Okay.
Or you know, so it's like Joseph Smith taught, Russell M. Nelson taught, Jesus Christ taught, right? That's what this is. So if someone just quotes the words of Jesus and doesn't assign it to him, then that doesn't count. But if they say "as the master taught" and then say it, that's very clearly Jesus, so it gets counted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we can see there that Jesus won that time. In April, you might expect him to win, because it's Easter. And you might expect there to be talks on Easter, on the atonement and different things. This time it's not Easter, if anyone's not noticed. It's Halloween. I wonder if they're going to talk for that. But this is also the first conference where President Nelson is the oldest prophet of this dispensation.
I think we're going to get that and some parity with his sort of mortality versus the Queen, and how like nothing lasts forever, but Russell Nelson does. Or, like, because the Queen was a similar age to Russell Nelson.
Yeah.
And so that for him, that will have made him think about his own mortality. And so I think, what would a narcissist do but double down on how awesome it is that they're still alive and how they're the oldest living prophet? And that's great, because he's always been wanting to beat Hinckley. That's why he's announced so many temples. Now he's beat him in age as well. It's going to be talked about. I hope he lives to 100, because I want to see the hubris, the sheer hubris present in the 100th birthday bash that they throw for him.
Could you imagine? There will be parades.
Incredible.
Wasn't it only COVID that kind of kiboshed the 95th?
Yeah, a little bit.
But yeah, 100 years.
I think he was only president for about a year when they did a major. At the same time as he was cancelling the pageants of the people, these cultural expressions of people's Mormonism with mass participation, while cancelling those as somehow beneath us, they had a massive concert just for his birthday.
But the
wording
that was used,
and bands and everything,
was that we're trying to simplify things and we're trying to reduce the amount of unnecessary large events. And then it's like, but happy birthday to me.
No, I mean, you couldn't make it up.
They make it sound like they can't afford it. You know what I mean? We can't afford a Hill Cumorah pageant. But I think the Hill Cumorah pageant, actually, I think that's more a case of we don't actually believe the Hill Cumorah was there anymore. We don't want to focus on our folk magic history anymore, with people throwing toads at the actors and pirates running out and things like that.
Madness.
Madness.
But yeah, I think we're definitely going to get some butt kissing around. Oh, isn't it great just how old he is? Because we saw some of that at the British Rescue. They were like, oh, it's great that Empress of Ballard's like 93. It's great that the Prophet's 96. Isn't this amazing that they're so old? Well, not really.
No, you know
if
what,
I'm
though,
honest.
right? They always used to go on about the oath and covenant of the priesthood. And they wouldn't say the oath and covenant of the priesthood, but they would allude to it by saying, by some 50-year-old GA flying around the world with a 90-year-old apostle and being like, I can't keep up with President Hinckley. I can't keep up with them, or some random story from a bodyguard saying like, I don't know how he does it. And it's supposed to be like the oath and covenant of the priesthood.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it about Uchtdorf. Have you seen the pictures of him and his wife cycling? It's excellent.
But
Go on.
Uchtdorf's another. He's an animal,
a man of his own, right?
But that can be disproven now by the Queen, who didn't have the oath and covenant of the priesthood, and was calling new prime ministers 2 days before she croaked it. So and it was pretty. Yeah, so the Queen worked right up to her death. So anyone who says these brethren who worked right up to, their last days and different things, and they're upheld by the Lord. No, people do it all the time. It is not a weird
It's not miraculous.
thing. Nope, it just is. Okay, let's take a look. Hymns. Let's take a look at hymns because this could add some joy. LDS live in the most sung conference in hymns. Thank you to Nemo for this one. The top 6. Anyone tell us your favorite? I'd go with High on a Mountaintop. You guys?
I mean, are there any good hymns about looking after children, being good to children, not abusing children? Any of those? Because we could do with some, maybe. Be good.
No,
I feel like there is. Is it a primary song?
Yes, so for the children to come to me. That one.
Father, in prayer I come in now to thee.
Yeah. That one that starts with the question we're not really allowed to ask. Heavenly Father, are you really there? We're not allowed to actually ask that question, are we?
No, because Russell M. Nelson will tell us. Okay, so we're just sounding like we're ranting now. Choose a favorite hymn that you think they're going to sing this time.
Oh, I mean, the best one on that list is I think Redeemer of Israel is a pretty cracking one because the organ arrangement on that is very good. And as we know, the tab choir sing the same arrangement of the hymn every time. So
yes. Well, speaking about that, last time out we had a multicultural choir from northern Utah. Do we think we're going to have a stand-in for?
Yeah. Isn't that an oxymormon? Isn't that a contradictory statement?
Multicultural choir from northern Utah.
Hey, there was a girl there with half of her head shaved and the other half was pink. So for me, that was enough. But...
Okay. Random extra side prediction. I reckon we'll hear a hymn in Spanish.
Ooh.
Because the church loves to appeal to the Spanish-speaking members. They do get a kick out of kind of pushing that. So I reckon we'll get one.
Okay, cool.
As part of maybe announcing the new hymn book.
What is the one that everyone's voting for?
Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing.
A new hymn book. Yeah, Come Thou Fount.
That's the one everyone wants. It used to be in the hymn book. It's still in the German hymn book.
That one. Yeah. So I predict they might put that one in.
Okay, so on social media, there's been a few predictions around President Eyring. And one of them, I'm just going to read it and then we'll get to one of your predictions, Nemo. And that was, an apostle collapses at the pulpit. Eyring rushes in to give a blessing. And due to him giving the blessing, the apostle dies on stage because he had the faith to die.
Bednar has to be the one that comes and explains that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which would be quite happy to do.
Yeah, absolutely would.
One of your predictions, Nemo, that's a bit out there, but go on.
Oh yeah, my prediction is that one of the apostles is dead already, and that it will be announced at conference. We'll find out at conference, because they lack any other real news.
Yeah, or they'll just be someone else sat there.
yeah. Just no, because I wonder whether now they're gonna double down on not even trying to make it like a show of some sort of divine revelation. Basically, just someone from the presidency of the 70 or the presiding bishopric is just gonna be sat in one of those seats. This person died, they picked their replacement, and they're just there. They're not even gonna bother like inviting them to come up from the audience.
They've already been set apart.
Yeah, it's all been done. They're just there.
I can see it now. They've been practicing. the person will be sat there in the congregation wearing a harness with the invisible things in the West End, right? And they will be lifted from their seat and ascend to the stand, do a little flip as they twist, and take their seat in their red velvet seat.
That'd be excellent. I'd know my tithing money is going good places if that's what they're doing.
Yeah. I'd feel like it was worth it. But
Ooh, hang on. Spicy prediction in the comments. Nelson will release Uchtdorf.
Could you imagine if they released a living
Spicy. I mean, he's already been demoted, so that's, you know, it's not far out.
Well, yet again, social media. I've got a whole list of these from Reddit, but there was an Uchtdorf one on there, and that would be that Uchtdorf ends the whole charade by standing at the pulpit, and he takes it hostage. So we're talking, you know, what do they call it in America? Tell me, people, when a politician in the Senate
filibustering, yeah.
He filibusters the whole 2 hours and just tears the whole church leadership to pieces.
No one can get him off the stand.
But no one is polite enough to drag him off the stand.
No. It goes in further. He rebukes them. And so they're kind of like dissonant. They're like, oh, we don't like this, but he's invoking priesthood. And like, we spent the past so many years telling him he has the same priesthood authority as us. So what do we do? And they're kind of like stuck in their seats.
Well, they can't do anything because he's had the second anointing. So,
and also he's stronger than I reckon most of them. He's probably in some of the best physical shape. I reckon Suarez would be to be the one that like tackle him to the floor.
Suarez.
But Suarez wouldn't do anything because Suarez
between
is
Uchtdorf and Godzilla. Who would win?
Uchtdorf every time.
Obviously.
No. I think that's a really interesting proposal that actually we could see someone released from a pretty significant calling.
Yeah. Or even excommunicated.
I think I'm going to call it, if they've got any common sense at all, the next apostle will be Patrick Kieran.
Oh, yes.
Because he absolutely saved our arse by getting in an anti-abuse thing just in time before the Associated Press research kicked off. He's the one who can actually prophesy the future. I mean,
well, you say prophesy.
He just analyzes one. Yeah,
read the writing on the wall.
Works out the obvious. Yeah, exactly, as he did about refugees. So he will, if they've got any sense. Now there may be issues because he's white, and they're under pressure to have more colours involved. But as it suddenly dawned on me while working on one of my podcast episodes, the British are the most discriminated against among the general authorities. We've only got one. There's actually no one there.
There are other nationalities that have never had one. You understand, right?
Ugandan,
no, but still. But as far as
for instance,
Korean,
North Korean.
No.
Right.
But for being like a major percentage of church membership in the past, obviously not anymore. Throughout the 20th century, there was never, since the first generation of pioneers went over, there was never more than one or two 70s who are from Britain. We've been massively underrepresented all the way through.
But then again, I don't think that's purely
Patrick,
Britain.
Who's rocking it.
I don't think that's purely Britain because you look again. Uchtdorf is the first non-North American since Taylor, maybe,
who was British.
So, like, it's not just us
Europeans. Then
it's everyone
it's our whole
outside
continent.
of
the
American Midwest.
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
but it's pretty slim pickings. If the church has been here longer than they've been in Utah, and that's all we've got is one GA, that's pretty dire, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, everyone, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, and even if you're not, please hit the like button and consider subscribing, because there will be more of this content coming, and there will also be me and Peter on Nemo's channel over the weekend reviewing what actually happened. Maybe we'll take a look at some of these predictions again.
I think we will. We'll revisit them.
Yeah, to see if we were correct. So just taking a look. Missionary work. missionary
Yes,
work is
this
on
is
its
desperate.
arse.
Absolutely.
That has been coming up a
all
lot.
right, so there's yeah. A
Peter,
lot
this
of
is
the
one of yours.
discussion in Reddit is is saying things like there there was a stake was people on Reddit reported that a stake, probably in America, its leadership have sort of challenged every retired couple and every single retired person to fill in all of their mission paperwork while praying about whether to serve as sort of an act of faith. They are desperate. They keep making big temples in tiny places, and there's no one to man them. They're extremely short of temple workers. So there's going to be a big push again, I think, for recruiting the elderly to come and work to pay a fortune to come and serve for free. Particularly if they're going to keep announcing more temples. And people are reporting from Utah, like desperation from area presidencies and so on, trying to guilt trip retired couples into going and being temple workers. So I think there'll be a big push in that. I think they're also they've got to be worried about the young, because the number of missionaries serving is plummeting. So there could be all kinds of further moves and variations with serving missions as a young person. So it could be that you can pick and choose from different lengths of time to serve, like maybe 6 months, even a year and a half. Or they might say you could serve 6 months and then see if you want to extend. Because if the reports of like a significant percentage of young people are coming home from missions early now. So if they gave people the option to voluntarily do that without shame, to have that kind of built-in flexibility, that could avoid a lot of pain and embarrassment all round. So that might be a sensible idea. Someone
I think
suggested
that's really good.
that they might.
So I think that's a really
That would
good
be
prediction,
helpful.
and I think the only way
Yeah.
the missionary program will survive is if it essentially becomes more flexible. And we've seen that over time with the rules relaxing about how and when you can contact home, or this sort of stuff. Ellie and Rue has said something really interesting here. Full-time missionaries will have to man temples. It will be marketed as both sides of the veil. That's what my mission was marketed as. In part was,
Yes.
that's why they called me John the Baptist. Because I was baptizing tons of dead people, and they viewed that as just as important as going out and baptizing people while living. So I think that's spot on.
They called you John the Baptist. Don't lose your head,
You've
mate.
not heard this before.
Yeah, because while all of them were like not baptizing anyone.
Exactly.
I'm here baptizing 140 names because some kid that lives in Saudi Arabia has come to the only temple within a few thousand miles to do all their family baptisms. They got like this, and I'm just there baptizing this kid over and over again.
Were you
names
like
upon
the
names.
missionaries, the stories of the missionaries in like South America who would stand in a river for that long that they would get the green stain around their shirt from all like the scum in the river as they were baptizing people constantly?
My leg hair just got bleached by the chlorine. That's all it was.
Yeah, and that's why you don't have any.
Oh my gosh.
There you go. New poll. Does Nemo have leg hair?
Yes. Well, there is a poll.
So Nemo.
There is a poll before
Nemo,
we go on. Wait, Peter.
Right,
there is a poll, and we're going to get to temples in a moment. How many temples will be announced this time? Yeah, take a look at the poll. 79 votes so far, and the winner is 8-14, which is interesting with 41%. But coming in close behind, 0-6 with 36%. I think that one's interesting. So yeah, take a look at the poll.
Okay. Sorry, Peter.
I was just going to say, so Nemo, you are famous for being skeptical and fact-checking. When they were telling you that your hundreds of baptisms for the dead in your temple mission counted as much as living people, did you believe them? Did you, in your heart of hearts, believe it?
I did.
Of course he did.
At the time, I did.
Oh, that's so cute. That's
Peter.
adorable. Good for you.
Of course he believed it.
Yeah. I was being given pats on the back and accolades.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course I did.
Well done, brother. But I'm sure I've heard of missionaries already getting called to service missions at home.
So I think we're going to get service missions pushed. I think social media missionaries are going to become almost an official thing. Although there has been some pushback on some missionaries spending too much time on social media, because I think what they've realized is all of us naughty lot are putting #Mormon on all our stuff, and they're all finding it.
Never.
I mean, I totally wouldn't, as an ex-Mormon content creator, just go through Instagram liking regular missionaries' posts so that I appear in their algorithm. You wouldn't do such a thing.
Nope.
so-
Or #Utah.
Oh no, not at all. So I think they know that we are favored in many ways by the algorithms of these social media platforms. Our content is doing very well, and so it's hard for them to keep those missionaries away from what we're saying.
Yeah, and I think we if there are any missionaries watching right now, hey dude, or lass,
just hang on in there.
Whatever.
Make sure you're well fed.
Yeah.
If you see me in the street, I
Yes.
will say hi, and I won't be mean to you.
And I'll buy you lunch.
Oh, absolutely. We'll buy you food if you see us,
because we've been there and we know how tough it is.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. You're probably a long way from home, so hang on in there.
I'm wondering.
Drop us a message.
So Brad Wilcox and others have been going on about how the social media missionary is having wild success and it's far better than traditional proselyting techniques and so on. I actually don't believe that. I am highly skeptical about that, because I think even if you get people to baptism, if you've mostly nurtured them through social media, when they actually experience the crushing boredom of actually attending church every Sunday, and it's quite different to what they might be led to expect. I'd be really interested to see data about retention rates of those missionaries. And also I think it's an incredibly unhealthy lifestyle to be in a church that's gone on and on about children not sitting in front of the TV all day long and getting out and being social, and just general, bad health of sitting down all day staring at screens. I think being a full-time social media missionary can't be healthy. I got a bit
It's
of
the
an
same reason
insight.
they have high
had,
turnover in the Strengthening Church Members Committee.
Yes.
Because
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
that burnout of constantly just being
of the people who are paid to
And
sit
they
and
do-
watch us.
Yeah, and they're just
Welcome.
lying. They keep joining Facebook groups saying they're
Mm.
interested in dog walking or local history or something. And it's just they sit there normalizing deception online, desperate to have some kind of contact with people. I mean, they do get out and about a bit. So we had Maven from Mormonism Live and Marco Fuentes who's been commenting of Mormon neurodivergence come and visit. Yes, come and visit us, and I was doing the stint showing them around London. We were outside Westminster Abbey, and then like you could not make it up, two social media sister missionaries just wandered up, and they were out and about making content. So they were just getting out of the dark cave they live in, probably blessed,
Making
and
content.
we're trying to film around time. So they're around town, and they were, trying to actually have things to post. So they were filming around London. So you can see them all trying to do all these things, but it's also desperate. It's really, that it's been a long time since I've heard anyone in anything to do with missions actually talk about our holy grail is middle class nuclear families. What can we do to get them? And by abandoning that and focusing on reactivating people, which is usually massively not effective, and part member families and friends of members and referrals, all of these things have incredibly low actual in reality success rates. Instead of actually, I believe that fairly traditional missionary approaches or actually adapting what they do to meet people's real interests and needs is far more effective than all these gimmicks. And they've just got used to being desperate and low-hanging fruit, and we'll throw the young people at the internet, they'll find people. But it's not that. Yeah, sorry, I'm ranting, but we all agree
No.
that the whole mission system is on its rear end and dying badly.
No, and I think
so I think shorter missions could be a way. Yeah,
Alana's
sorry,
got a
go on.
point here. I remember at times when you've got the missionary tag on, if you're in a specifically rough area of town or anywhere, you're much more likely to get beat up. And I got beat up a few times. I don't know why. My face isn't that annoying. But Alana says an interesting thing here. about putting themselves at risk, posting to offer, to do gardening and stuff like that of all sorts. Because what you're basically doing is you're saying to any predator, I will do whatever you want me to do. Just send me your address.
Yeah.
Okay. We had sisters on a mission in Durham, and I was a district leader. They called me crying because they had met someone on the street who had kind of made sure he met them, and started talking to them. They were excited to talk to him because he was really interested. He gave them an address, and they went to that address where there was a whole group of men and women sat waiting for them, to kind of rebuke the devil out of them and different things. And they said we couldn't get away. We just had to sit for like 45 minutes whilst they
they're
rebuked
lucky
us.
it's just that. Yeah, I'm surprised more sister missionaries aren't trafficked. Like,
So,
being deadly serious, I'm surprised that doesn't
and
happen more.
and young men. I had a family member recently, and we were talking about someone, a girl who was 20, who couldn't get a train 10 or so miles because, well, she can't do that on her own. But she's got a brother who's 17, who in 6 months' time they'll expect to go anywhere in the world that the Lord sends him on his own. But she can't get a train 10 miles. And she's not, this young lady, she's very competent and very, street smart, self-aware. She could. But it's just kind of that double standard that we protect them at home. Well, that's questionable. But we'll just send them out to do the Lord's bidding because he'll protect them, maybe.
I was reading a thread in Reddit, I think, and it was just about who got a lifelong illness from their mission, and the stories were horrific. People have been sent to live in really squalid situations in countries their immune system couldn't cope with. And I've got a friend who still has bowel problems from serving in Haiti donkeys years ago. And it just really showed how much these young people are put in danger, are put in really squalid living conditions when the church could literally provide the penthouse suite at the best hotel in wherever they're living. There's a middle ground here that the church could actually protect and look after these people. There's the stories of people who need healthcare on their mission, and the church quickly shuffles them home or refuses to give it. And again, I've got friends who that heavily contributed to him leaving the church after his mission. All these things of not taking care of people, the talk of caring about family and children, but no training to do it really well. I mean, they do have some health missionaries who serve just to keep missionaries alive away from home, in areas with nastier diseases going on. But
I think that
it's nowhere near adequate. It's
I
just
think
not fair.
to get us
Yeah.
back on track, the only thing that really needs to be said about that is that it says a lot when you're expected to have your wisdom teeth removed and all your vaccinations done,
Yeah.
so that you aren't a risk to the church's health insurance. So they're not going to have to pay out for wisdom teeth extraction or other such things like that. But you're not sent to see a psychological professional for evaluation of your mental state to serve in a high stress environment for 2 years.
Yeah,
That says
I had
volumes.
to have 2 operations on my feet before I was allowed to go on a mission, and they weren't major operations, but they wouldn't let me go until I went and had these operations that the NHS wouldn't normally have done unless I'd gone to them with these papers and said they won't let me do this without this, and they eventually did it, and I went. But you're just mentally, there was nothing at the time. There may be now, but there was nothing at the time. But speaking of young people, there is this rumor that is really going for it. Peter, this is one of yours again, about the strength of
I think
the
it's
Strength of Youth pamphlet.
This is
so this
Dr.
is
Judy
one of my-
Hanks, isn't it?
Yes.
That put this
Yes.
up. Yeah.
So this is one of my obsessions in my podcast, is all the guff about we're not going to ask young people intrusive questions anymore in wordiness interviews and so on, is all totally undermined by the fact that everything in the handbook, all the adults, all the bishops, all the parents, when are pointed to the definition of the law of chastity in our church being what is in For the Strength of Youth. And in For the Strength of Youth, it commands children that it tells them that any kind of sexual sin, including masturbation or looking at pornography or struggling with sexual thoughts or whatever, is a sin second only to murder, and that they must talk to their bishop about it. It says, talk to your parents and your bishop, something like promptly or as soon as you can. So they are told they have to confess all and discuss all these detailed things with their bishop. The bishop is being told by the handbook, this For the Strength of Youth is your criteria. At the same time as they're being told not to ask intrusive questions. But it's very carefully worded that, however, if the young person feels guilty about a sin or wants to come and talk to them, then they should engage. So it becomes totally irresponsible, because if you've got an anxious perfectionist young person who has been taught one way about the gospel and wants to confess every sexual thought, the bishop is being told, well, then your job is to service that, not tell them to stop being ridiculous and stop beating themselves up, but put them through the repentance process. But if you have a kid who's never been taught that or doesn't care and doesn't bring it up, the bishops won't bring it up, and they get kind of scot-free through this whole thing. So that's just been an aggravation for a long time. So to hear that it's possible that a new version of For the Strength of Youth, which is long overdue, the last one was like 1991 or something, is removing specific prescriptions on not having tattoos, not having a second earring, all this pharisaical judgment by clothing stuff, and just talks in general terms about respecting your body and using the Spirit to make decisions that have a lasting effect on the body, which sounds like specific wording. So it could be there's a leak here, or it's been piloted. This would be great. But I think the problem with that is the culture won't actually change. They don't have to stop writing it down for everyone to still believe these things are rules, because they're there as a vague concept. So there was a big moment, I think it was the 1991 Strength of Youth, removed the word masturbation from For the Strength of Youth. And that clearly was some kind of signal from the general authorities to stop demonizing masturbation. But then when you read it, it still included a fairly vivid description of how to masturbate and telling you it's totally sinful and second only to murder. And there's no sense anywhere that I've picked up in the
Are you
church
saying that the Old For
of
Strength of
leaders
Youth
being told
is a masturbation handbook?
It literally is. Also, it says do not touch the private parts of your body and do not lie upon another person and all this stuff. It's like
With or without clothing, I think it said. Yeah.
Yeah, with or without clothing.
Okay.
So it's like a handbook.
But
anyway, so hopefully these changes happen. But my point is, the culture won't. It will not. They may remove specifically saying don't wear a second earring, but loads of people have seen David Bednar saying that he admired a person he knew who dumped his fiance or girlfriend because she wouldn't take her second earrings out.
That's
so
because
that's established in the culture.
That's because he doesn't
if they
have
don't
earlobes.
specific, yeah,
He's just jealous of those with
that's a whole
earlobes.
other thing. We're back to that. Brilliant.
Sorry.
So I think unless, as we know, unless these leaders specifically say it's okay to have tattoos, no one's going to believe it. Unless they specifically say it's okay to masturbate, no one is going to believe that.
Because they'll stick with the old interpretation.
Yeah.
And they'll basically say that, that it will become tradition.
Wouldn't you love it if Elder Uchtdorf, without letting any of them know, got up, rolled up his shirt sleeve and said, "This is the first aeroplane I flew."
It's just the flight number of the first plane that he flew.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Anyway,
dear.
but I think this is a good example.
Don't mention Germans with tattooed numbers on their arms, Nemo. This is not
oh my
good.
gosh.
Peter, I didn't go there.
I'm going to
We're going to have to put him in timeout again.
Oh my gosh. Right. But this is a good example of why Jeffrey R. Holland is a prophet of the restoration, because he said, when the world goes here, later on we go here.
Here
and here. And that's what's happening here. It's the moving along as the world has progressed and understands these things. Peter, you can come back now. You know, the church is following just 30 years too late, and the road, in my opinion, to these more progressive and better attitudes is littered with the souls of excommunicated members. Natasha Helfer comes to mind. And you know,
Sam
because
Bishop.
because this is what they've been saying, and the church didn't like it. So boo.
And to his credit, Brad Wilcox gave an amazing talk in General Conference, in which he basically said, telling young people that if they repent of a sin, then do it again, all their previous sins come back, and expecting immediate transformation to perfection rather than a long journey is not healthy. I mean, if Brad can work this out, you know, surely the institutional church needs to make some radical steps in the, you know, to get real and listen to what people have been telling them for decades about all of this. But they will, if they eventually do it, as you said, it will be too little and too late always. Yeah. And they'll have lost countless people along the way before they woke up and and everyone was telling them this decades ago. If they'd listened, they'd have avoided losing half their young people.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Anyway.
Okay, well, let's talk about something that is very relevant this week, and that is child abuse. It's Child Abuse Week. Am I right? And we are through people like Brian Brees, who is standing outside the church office building this week, giving talks and allowing people to come and use the mic a little bit and to tell their stories. We've got Protect Every Child. We've got 21st Century Saints, who have their open letter for people to send. I'll put that in the description. But yeah, something that we don't think they will address is the child abuse and children's safeguarding issues that are going on. Whether that's a legal thing because of the Boy Scouts of America and they don't want to get all hung up in that. But we do know that a change is happening in California. For instance, California, there was a legal change there, and the church has had to, you know, put legal checks in place. Australia does the same, and the church speaks about being the gold standard in, you know, protecting children. So for the children to come unto me, and then do whatever they want because we don't care. But yeah, I don't think that they will address it. Anyone?
Interesting. I think we're much more likely to see veiled. We're much more likely to see veiled kind of, you know, references to things that we ought not to be paying attention to, rather than a sort of direct reference to them.
Yeah, it'll be about, you know, we are a persecuted people. These lawyers and journalists coming up, you know, making awful insinuations when, you know, their second statement was all about feelings. How would anyone think we could be bad because we feel so passionately to protect children? And it's so outrageous that these awful journalists are saying these terrible things because we're nice. You know, that's what it boils down to. So I think there could well be some doubling down on that kind of rhetoric. You know, we are misunderstood by the world. We're the nice, we're the goodies. They're just bitter and
the problem with this
uninformed
narrative
people who won't listen to us.
The problem with this us versus them in group out group narrative, which is so prevalent in these sorts of groups, but the major issue with it is that it then allows this attitude of bare minimum compliance with the outside world. So it's like, oh, well, because it's the out group asking us to do this to protect children, we're not going to do it. Oh, well, we have to exist within their state. Well, I guess we'll do the bare minimum, right? It's this like, oh, well, man's laws versus our laws, and we'll keep the bare minimum of man's laws possible while living God's laws. It's really problematic.
But do we think that someone will give it'll be a veiled kind of talk, but to address the piece by Mark Renendez and others about the whole Arizona case, and to address clergy-client privilege, to explain that, not in a obvious way, but just to explain a bishop's role and how, you know, heavy a bishop's heart is with these things and how precious the children are and how, you know, we have to So I don't think they'll go into any of the abuse thing directly, but I think they will want to somehow kind of poke at that.
So I'm gonna scribble off my prediction then that Mike Resendez is gonna get called as a member of the 70.
So
Keep your
might
enemies
not
close.
happen, yeah. I was really fascinated to find when researching my last podcast episode, where I really went into the Resendez's research and the responses, that Gordon B. Hinckley gave two really big, powerful talks, one as an apostle and then one as president, in which he repeated the first talk and said he was, both directed at bishops. And in both of them, he absolutely insisted on the confidentiality of the things disclosed to them, that this was paramount, whatever was said to them. And in the second talk, the only exception he granted, because at that point they'd started the helpline, and he referenced Call the Helpline, was where there is a legal requirement to disclose. But that was the only exception he offered. It was very much about, you are the guardian of people's darkest secrets, so you must keep them secret, and there'll be temptations for you to speak, but you must not, and that is still overall the attitude of the church. All the guidelines that the bishops get, and you see it in the handbook of instructions, is at all costs, please do not take to the witness stand in court. Get other people to do it, but you as bishop do not in any way help a court case.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that they
prime witness,
things they don't want to mention, they won't mention the spirit of discernment. RFM, they absolutely won't, because they want to imply that, but they want to abandon the explicit statement that they have this gift. Also, RFM, come on my halftime show.
Yes.
Come on my halftime show for the Saturday evening session of General Conference, please, and thank you.
Here he looks. Everything the speakers say sounds funny. No, I agree with RFM, Nemo, because I think the spirit of discernment is the backstop, for all of this. Because why did you do that? The spirit of discernment. The Lord told me to. For everything. So yeah.
Well, Rusty wakes up in the morning having a rush of ideas, like we all do after a good night's sleep, and that's the spirit of discernment, or that's revelation. That's anything they think is. And there are so many Freudian slips that Holland and others have made recently, basically admitting that they've convinced themselves that since they're good people and they've been called as apostles, everything they are thinking must be from God as revelation, and they don't even kind of bother to check or differentiate anymore. And they almost have advised that to young people as well, like, well, if you're living right and doing exactly what we tell you to, then you're fine, don't worry, whatever you think you should be doing, just do it, that's from God. They've really watered down like the impact of a real revelation and what it might involve.
I don't think
it's fascinating.
Last time we were talking about something called doctrinal drift, and the fact that they want to get everything back in place. I think Oakes did that with the LGBTQ homophobic talk. He was realigning that drift, and I think they do that every now and then, but they never actually prophesy, reveal, or see anything. It's very
always
rare.
Looking backwards.
Yeah, they're just custodians. It's very rare, I think, these days, that they will choose a topic like I don't know, a very doctrinal topic, and then dive into it.
Teach doctrine.
They
won't.
They will just they'll beat around the bush rather than burning it. So what can you do? Looking at a few quick ones that you said, Peter. They need to spend all their money quick before the Boy Scouts of America get it all.
Oh my gosh. They're about to lose all of it. They've got to rediscover Jesus, who said that if you're rich, give all your money to the poor, like have it do some use before it disappears by other means. It will, hey man. It will be, I mean, this is so urgent. If I was in charge of the church, I'd just read something from the New Testament about that and say, you know, moth and rust, get it spent on doing good in the world before moth or rust doth corrupt it, or lawyers come for it, because the scale of thousands already, 3,000 or more LDS abuse victims through scouting in America, and the tens of thousands that it should be based on the percentages of other scouts coming forward. And if they got reasonable settlements in court, that will quickly add up to $100 billion easily. It would wipe out Ensign Peak overnight. And the mistake the church made, that has been pointed out regularly by John DeLynn and others discussing this, is that by existing as a corporate soul, by having all the wealth of the church and all its power focused on and owned by the president of the church, if many legal systems in the world will do punitive damages, including in America, so they will take a percentage of your total wealth to punish you for doing something wrong. So all of it is vulnerable. Whereas the Catholic Church only survived financially by having each of its dioceses be independent financially. So you had to sue a diocese. There's a limit on how much money you can get out of them. So they've got to sell all the stocks and shares, which will cause a crash, and give it to the poor fast, or it's all going to abuse victims in court. And that truth must be starting to dawn on them by now.
Yes, absolutely.
If
And
it has any
RFM,
sense, which they don't.
RFM, I am sat in one of the red velvet chairs on the stand at the conference center, if you can believe that. Fantastic. It's amazing. It's real. It's real.
Excellent.
But Peter, wait until they get the central bank digital currencies. If anyone knows what they are, they will be the end to freedom with your money. Every dollar will have a serial code attached to it digitally, and the government will know exactly where it is, exactly how much tax they have to pay on it, and it will be the end of Ensign Peak as we know it. I don't want it, because I don't want them to. I prefer to have a bit of cash as well, not all this digital stuff where they can say, oh, you can't spend that because that should go on your rent. But
speaking of money, RFM wants me to pay him to come on the halftime show. I'm aware you can buy anything in this world with money. I have no money to pay you with, but I can pay you in Coca-Cola. I'll be in Utah at the end of the month to come get it.
Oh, excellent. Offer him Iron Brew. Iron Brew.
Yeah.
Some Iron Brew and Tizer.
On the end of the money, Alana, it is for real. Just look up central bank digital currency, and it will scare you more than the church. Peter seems to think that they're going to mention TikTok. I don't.
Well, what I'm looking for specifically is my favorite hypocrisy du jour of the general authorities, which is that they name, in disparaging social media, the exact corporations they've given more than $1 billion of tithing money to, or at least a few tens of millions. So you get, condemning, you can't find your testimony on Google, or, Facebook isn't where you're going to experience God and that sort of thing. But they've literally, some of their biggest financial investments with the tithing money are in Google and Facebook, like to the tune of billions for Google. So I'm looking for that. I'm looking for a TikTok one. So we've got to have a new word here. So some phrase insulting TikTok as the apocalypse and the end of civilization.
We've already had how much
they've invested in it.
We've already had it at BYU, haven't we? That if Corey Hall were alive, he'd be a TikToker. But they'll do their usual and slag us all off, slag all the podcasters, YouTubers, TikTokers, and they'll just put us in a big bag of antichrists and burn us at the stake.
Yeah.
But
it's all they've got is fear.
Yeah. You think that there'll be a really fundy talk, one that really speaks to the Desnats and fundies out there.
I was so inspired by your Klebingat. So yeah, we need our new and some more Desnat goables to come on. So there'll be some kind of up and coming successor to Packer and Oakes and Bednar and all the rest, Klebingat's laid out his stall. He did a barnstorming talk. He's absolutely going to be the one. Brigham Young never did anything wrong, sort of stuff level. But there might be some more. So who are the new little sort of Pharisee control freaks who will preach that you can't compromise on any commandments at all ever? You can't do cafeteria Mormonism. You have to live by every word of these living prophets, and then everything will be fine. So I'm looking for that talk. It will be there somewhere.
Okay. Now let's move on to something we all want to see a little bit more of, because they speak sense probably more than the brethren do, and that is the sisters. How many sisters do we think will speak at this year's conference? Now, there is no sisters only session this time. So we're talking about the whole conference, and this is including prayers. So if we can have a few people in the chat give us just single numbers, whether it's more than 10. How many do you think will either say a prayer or give a talk? Count Kolob no more than 3. Peter said 4, so that's pretty close.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Nemo said 6. I said 8.
I think you are wishful.
No, you see, what happened was, to prepare for this show, I looked back at the last show, and Nemo gave us the figures as he fact-checked how many sisters spoke in the conference before and gave prayers, and it was 4 sisters and 2 prayers. So I've upped that, because they always want to up it a little bit, don't they, to the 8. So
Yeah, but they don't always up it, because then they went through one where they literally they dropped massively. So
yeah,
it's not a linear thing.
Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the end of conference at that 8, 6, and 4 to see, where that went. But the big one, the one that everyone sat on the edge of their seat for, and that we have a poll about at the moment, is the number of new temples. Let's see where the poll is. We're still 40%, 8 to 14 new temples to be announced.
Yeah,
Russell, he just loves to get up there, doesn't he? And like with that smile on his face, just be like, here, like Oprah.
RFM says, sorry, I need to address this. I'm having like a secondary conversation with RFM live on air. He called me a couple of hours ago and left an encouraging voicemail. That number that I have, which is for calling internationally in America, isn't working properly. So I apologize, RFM, if I've not been taking your calls. But you can email me. That's nemotheremormon@gmail.com.
Great.
Sorry.
We are here as Nemo's secretary service. Fantastic. He does have more subscribers, so that's fine.
And it is a privilege. We are honored.
When RFM is not angry but disappointed because you're not answering his phone calls, you got to address the man.
I agree.
Awesome.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes. It's okay. Okay, temples. So looking back to April 2018, we can see the trend here going up of those that he's announced. Up, down, up, down. Oh, sorry. We'll get to Daniel soon. But this time, I think he is going to announce. I've said 18. And the reason I've said 18 is because 18, everyone, will take him to 300 temples, either built, in progress, or announced. And I've seen rumors online of people saying that he wants to announce 35 a year until he dies, and that he announced 17 last time, so he needs to announce 18 this time, and it'll take him to the magic 300.
My goodness.
If I had a mic, I'd drop it.
I've had an insider reach out a while ago, as I mentioned before, I think, to say that President Nelson attends all the temple committee meetings. It's like his most important thing. And he's told them to start planning for 1,000 temples, which wouldn't surprise me, which is ludicrous, obviously. But I think somehow he believes his own propaganda. I think he genuinely believes this is what it's about. The other way to get temple is to be somewhere where his ancestors lived. So this Ephraim temple near Manti Obviously, it's partly been built to kind of cover their embarrassment at backing off from remodeling Manti and destroying the murals. But it turned out his ancestors are mostly from Ephraim. So this is a big ego thing for him plonking a temple where his roots are. Sort of thing.
Whose ancestors are from Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia? So this
Genghis Khan.
This is a pro church website right here, with the Temple Predictions 2020, and they're saying that the most likely to be announced in this conference is Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. Now imagine Russell M. Nelson reading this: Spanish Fork, Utah; Charlotte, North Carolina; Santiago.
Go on. Where'd the racists go?
Tuguegarao, Philippines; Angeles or Olongapo, Philippines; Tacoma, Washington; Colorado Springs, Colorado; Kampala, Uganda; Iquitos, Peru; and Sao Jose, Brazil. I'm really rubbish at that, but no Scotland there. Ireland.
No.
But I think they could do Scotland. Radio Mormon thinks Chile.
I love the idea. It is only in this exact scenario that do you have Spanish Fork, Utah next to Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia.
Yes.
This is the only scenario in which those two places are next to each other.
Yeah,
it'll be a Jeopardy
in
question.
global importance.
What is Jeopardy the one where they do it backwards and they'll be like Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, Spanish Fork, Utah. Buzz. What links are two places for Mormon temples?
Mormon temples.
But the 1,000 is ridiculous, because I was talking to someone, they mentioned the 300, and I said, what are they going to do? Just open them and have like them as museums and temples in waiting? Just build them now whilst we've got the money. They're waiting for the millennium, and for the time being, we'll just have them as like temples. Visitor centers and museums,
or open at weekends. Yeah.
Burj Khalifa Dubai temple.
Yeah. Or a temple boat, a ship.
Temple boat.
That would be a brilliant idea. It could just travel the world to less known, smaller locations. But they almost implied like there had been discussions about one in the past or something like that. I don't know. I've heard something about that. But that could be cool.
Incredible.
I would say that would be a sensible idea, but they just build the actual temples on tiny places now, so you don't need a boat.
No, they do a temple plane.
But
that's what I was going to say. They do a plane like the Vomit Comet, where you go on a trip, but it'd be something else like the Snooze.
Imagine the endowment ceremony at 0G.
Yes.
The veil would be tricky, wouldn't it?
Your robes would be tricky.
Is it Starship Troopers has that Mormon colony in space that gets destroyed by the insects.
Yeah, and there's another one as well where they've got a Mormon spaceship with a Moroni on the front. Some sci-fi series. I can't remember which one it was. It was quite good though.
Space
Mormons. Here's the reason why the 1,000 thing isn't like beyond the realms of possibility. Number one, they can absolutely afford it. They've got more than enough money. But secondly, they're already doing it. Like, this is the point. They're already doing it. They're already building temples all over Europe or announcing them in places that have struggled to have 2,000 active members in the whole country. So they're already there. They've already reached the threshold of ludicrousness for not actually needing many members to build a temple somewhere. So we've passed through the looking glass into that crazy world. This isn't even something to kind of josh about from afar.
So what you're saying is, in order for that to work, you have to have just over 5 temples per nation of the earth. It's 195 nations, right? So including North Korea, you have to have 5 per nation, or more in some. More in some. And
how many
North Korea's in America?
How many have you already got in
America,
the United States, Canada? You know, these places. There's already loads.
But is that enough to make up for then you've got to put at least one in every country.
Yeah.
But it
Well,
will kill. Yeah. Well,
the Lord.
and then that's fulfilling a prophecy. The end is nigh. So the gospel must sound in every clime and every ear and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
maybe that's something they've got in mind, because they're all about accelerating the second coming. Assuming it's around the corner the whole time. So
Yeah.
that is the logic, isn't it? That's the rationale for Nelson doing all this. Is he's convinced the end is nigh. It's the Lord's battalion. The kids are going to be the last generation to usher in the millennium. He thinks he's the bee's knees saved for the end times. So he's got to kind of accelerate it all happening on his watch. And
I love the idea that Russell Nelson thinks of
destroy-
himself as the bee's knees. He looks at himself in the mirror. He's like, "You're the bee's knees."
Well, he doesn't need to, because Wendy's doing it behind him. Wendy's like worshipping him.
No, you know what?
in the
This could
background.
be this could be what pushes it over the edge for World War III. Now, everyone has been very, very kind of, well, Putin hasn't, but everyone in the West were worried, obviously, about pressing the button first, etc. But if President Nelson stands up and announces the temple in Independence, Missouri, is Biden just going to think, well, it's the end, isn't it? Independence, Missouri.
Yeah.
The Mormons are gathering. Let's it's going to happen anyway. But yeah.
Well, so far the Mormons have bought 2% of Florida and have plans to build massive cities on that land in the first place in America that will go under the oceans with the seas rising. They're not investing in real estate in Missouri, are they? I just find that absolutely fascinating.
Peter.
It just shows they don't actually believe it's the last days, because they could buy Missouri.
This comes from a religious sect that believes there was a man called Brigham Young. Well, he probably did stand and say, "This is the place that we will steal all the water from and destroy in the next 150 years as that beautiful lake dries up." Why would they care about destroying Florida or putting loads of money into it on that ranch and the water coming in? That whatever the prophet says is what it is. They just bought a new hotel, Peter, for more than 100 million. Don't get upset. They just bought a new hotel.
Welling still doesn't have a chapel.
And there we are.
And I saw on social media that someone suggested that they would put officers in the new chapels for, my lights have gone out, for Elders Quorum president and Relief Society presidents. And Welling still doesn't have a chapel. So, yeah.
Spooky.
But general questions, will they use Sisters and Brothers?
Absolutely.
I know they've used it a few times. We think they're going to just totally go with that now.
They're totally leaning into that now.
Good morning, Sisters and Brothers. Really upset the right-wing members. And
It's easier than giving them the priesthood.
Okay.
Yeah. That's it. That's the feminist revolution right there. That'll do.
Yeah. Other people
far enough.
Holland to mention the second anointing. Oakes to mention that changes are coming. Gong to go off on tangents. Anderson to kiss Rusty's ass. Uchtdorf to be given as little time as possible. Russell M. Nelson to lie. Bonnie to bring up her grandson's murder. Tracy Browning to be on show. No call to Missouri. So a lot out there, but one of the best ones I think that if it came true would be absolutely amazing. A low-level 70 to give a talk on the gospel topic essays. Could you imagine how many people would be sat at home saying, what are the gospel topic essays?
Well, come find out. I can tell you all about those.
Yeah. Google it.
Google it.
Google
it.
I've only got 5 minutes. You guys Google it. John Dillon's got some good stuff on it. They should just put an LDS discussions banner on the screen.
Can you imagine? I think Mike's internet traffic would just end his website, I think.
It'd be like a Russian cyber attack. You know, trying to take out MI5.
He's like, I just got name dropped at General Conference, and now my website can't handle the traffic.
Well, yes, but we're all looking forward to learning more from the brethren as they enter the largest echo chamber on the planet and tell us all
22,000 seat echo chamber.
Yeah, tell us all what we already know. Tell us not to listen to people like us, and that's okay whether you do or not. But please like and subscribe. And something that I did find as I was trawling the internet, which is a bad place to be apparently, is something from Daniel C. Peterson, and we have Dan in the background there. And I can't confirm or deny if this is actually Dan C. Peterson, but when I was watching it, I felt like it was, and then it wasn't.
Did the
But if
Spirit
this
testify to you that it was?
Yeah.
Well, then you could.
Let's listen to the Spirit and see what we feel the truth is about this.
Okay, but if this is real, then it would be amazing. But let's talk for a moment whilst I bring that back up because
Yeah. Right.
Well,
one
our
thing I
friend's
have
asking
to
when we'll
say
meet.
is, fillet of a fenny snake in the cauldron, boil and bake. Yeah.
What the actual?
He's old, PD. He's old. I don't know what he's talking about.
What does that mean, Peter? You said
Macbeth
it.
shall never vanquish be till great Burnham wood to hide unslain.
Oh, RFM knew it. Okay.
Any fun in the comments with Macbeth?
Any closing remarks before we have Dan C. Peterson?
Just that I think
just
this
say
suggestion in the
the-
comments. Oh, go on.
Go on. Sorry, I just Bonnie Cordon being called to run child safeguarding in the church absolutely is a must. If that happens, I will crease up laughing and then do some crying. But the thing about our church is it's possible, and that's something that Doug Vincent and others have been suggesting. That so Bonnie is famous. Just to give context for people listening to this in the future, Bonnie constantly talks about the tragedy of her grandson dying unexpectedly, and it's turned out it was probably through violent abuse by his parents, but she keeps bringing it up in conference talks, like over and over again, and just did it again recently. So everyone's waiting for her to be appointed as the child safeguarding head czar in our church, which would be typical of Mormonism in the 21st century, hilarious and tragic at the same time, but possible. You can't rule it out. There we go. I feel purged now. That's all the good stuff.
Okay.
And Anderson and Cook are going to brown nose the prophet.
Of course.
There we go. Mic drop.
Of course.
Brown nose the prophet.
That's
Right.
all.
I've gone to the ends of the earth to get this because technical error, but I think I've got it. Okay. So this account, Daniel C. Peterson, sneak preview of October 2022 General Conference. This is amazing.
The Lord taught Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery, yea, behold, I will tell you in your mind and in your heart by the Holy Ghost, which shall come upon you and which shall dwell in your heart. We learn the dance steps with our minds, but we hear the music with our hearts. The dance steps of the gospel are the things we do.
It's getting hot in here, so take off all your robes. I'm getting so hot, I'm gonna take my robe off. It's getting hot in here, so take off all your robes.
Brothers and sisters, thank you for that beautiful music. In section 8 of the Doctrine and...
Okay, guys.
Oh, good Lord.
And on that note, thank you so much for being here tonight, guys. Thank you so much for your input. Like and subscribe. It's been great. We'll see you on Nemo's halftime shows. See you later. Bye.